Hi, and welcome to UROP's presentation on how to prepare an in-person oral presentation for this year's symposium. My name is Jerry McMillan. I'm a UROP advisor, and this is one of our series of videos that we've created for all of the presentation possibilities for this year's symposium. Depending on the presentations you want to do, we invite you to check out all of the videos or just the ones that apply to you. As a note, as you go through these videos, the ultimate source for all things symposium is our student presenter guide. We'll give you a lot of information and suggestions in these videos, but for details, for specific information, always refer to the guide as the final word. So let's start by asking a very simple question. What is an in-person oral presentation? And an in-person oral presentation is two elements. First of all, it's your research presentation, a presentation of your project. The second element is supporting visuals. We'll talk about both of those in a little bit, but the important thing to think about, if you are doing an in-person oral presentation, you have already submitted an oral presentation audition video. Our judges have reviewed your video and invited you to present in person as part of the symposium week. So if you think back to the pitch that you recorded for the audition video, the requirements for that were a 3-minute video that provided an overview of your project and your relationship to your project. It focused on inspiration, it focused on impact and your own personal story. For the in-person presentation, you have 7 minutes. And you're going to do a different focus. Presenting in person is much more an opportunity to talk about the details of your project. We'll get into specific information on that in a minute, but the important thing to think about is between the pitch and the in-person presentation, your project is still the same. So it's absolutely fine to use information from one for the other. But the one strong suggestion we have is don't just take the pitch and make it longer. Use the information in the pitch, maybe reorder it, maybe edit it, maybe add some stuff deliberately. But as you're going from the 3-minute pitch to a 7-minute research presentation, mindfully consider, what are you adding? What can you add to make a well-rounded presentation so that you're not just adding more filler to make things longer? So as we're talking about your research presentation, definitely keep in mind the pitch you started with. But remember, this is a different type of presentation. So always consider how that affects what you're doing moving forward. So moving from that, let's talk about what is a research presentation. First of all, the primary focus of your presentation is you. Your presentation is what's important here. What you are saying, your presence is the most important part of this presentation. You have 7 minutes, which gives you an opportunity to provide a detailed overview of your project. Talk about your background. Talk about your motivation. Why did you do this project? Talk about how you did the project. What methods did you use? Talk about what you found out. What are your results? What did you discover throughout this project? Talk about the impact your project had on you, on your community, on the people around you. Talk about the implications. Why does your project matter? And then talk about where you go from here. As I'm sure you recognize, a project is never complete. You reach stopping points. But part of getting to those stopping points is raising far more questions than you come up with answers. Where are you going from here? And then an important thing to think about as you are creating your research presentation is most of your audience, most of the people listening to you are not going to be experts in your field. Many will be completely unfamiliar with things you are talking about. And you need your presentation to relate to them as well as the people in your field. But you also need to do this without dumbing down what you're talking about. So think about it as two layers. When you're talking about specifically your methods, how you did your project, you need a level of detail that may not be understandable to people who don't have that background. That's fine. But as you are creating your presentation, when you're thinking about a broad audience, think about presenting it in a way that any general audience member is going to be able to walk away understanding the answers to 3 questions. Question 1, why did you do it? Why did you do your project? What was the state of information in your field that caused you to take on this next step? What question are you trying to answer? So the first thing you want people to understand is, why did you do it? Second thing, what did you find out? What are your results? And then the third thing, and probably the most important one, is, why does this matter? Why do the people listening to your presentation care about what you did? And if everybody can walk away from your presentation understanding the answers of those 3 questions, you have successfully aimed your project at a multidisciplinary general audience. So always keep that broad picture in mind as you're designing. So those are the elements of your research presentation. But that's only half the presentation. The other half is your supporting visuals. And supporting visuals are usually a slideshow, usually PowerPoint. But the important thing to remember about the visuals is they are not the complete presentation. They should not stand alone. I often hear people describe their presentation as a PowerPoint presentation, and I strongly urge you not to think in those terms. Because describing it as a PowerPoint presentation implies that the PowerPoint is the most important part of what you're doing. And as we said on the previous slide, the most important part of your presentation is you. The visuals are here to support your research presentation. They are here to provide illustrations to things that you cannot say on your own. You can use illustrations, graphs, things that you cannot describe in simple words. Put them on the slides. They support what you're saying. But you can also include navigational reminders. Think about, as you're going through the slideshow, people will want to remind themselves, what are we talking about now? Your headings can provide that sort of information. Maybe you get a little bit lost in your presentation. A navigation reminder. Look back at your slide. What's the top on the slide? You can say, oh yeah, I'm talking about that now. It'll remind you where you are and keep you grounded in your presentation. So with those in mind, what should you put on a slide? First of all, consider what's needed to be on the slide. Your goal is to illustrate and support your presentation. What is needed to achieve that goal? And as you're designing the slide, ask yourself every time you put something on it, does this help me get closer to achieving that goal? And if the answer is no, change it or consider taking it off. Think in terms of bullet points, not sentences. One thing to think about, every time you put up new information on the screen, your audience is going to stop listening to you and read the screen. So keep what's on the screen minimal and efficient. Everything on the slide should contribute to what you want to say. And going back to keep what's on the slide to a small level, think about white space. Think about space that doesn't say anything. The more white space is on the slide, the more people can focus on the actual content. And consider, as you're creating a slide, maybe you can start thinking there's too much on the slide. Think about breaking it up. Break it into 2 slides so that there's more space on each of those 2. It's far better to have more slides with limited information than fewer slides with way too much. So as you're designing slides, think about clarity. Is it clear? Can the audience easily comprehend what's there? First of all, you want them to be able to read it. Too much stuff makes it hard to read. You want the text to be minimal. You want it to be concise and to the point. As I mentioned, use bullet points, not complete sentences. Make the organization very clear. People are going to read as you're going through the slide. Is it clear as you're moving from one spot to the next? Is it understandable where you're going? Consider making headings that mean something. I've seen a lot of presentations over the years where one of the headings will be methods. And as I read that slide, all I've understood now is you have methods. Going into your presentation, I expect you to have methods. Rather than having a heading that says it, have a heading that says, we did this, and give some specific information in the heading. That way people are already getting information on the slide rather than just seeing, oh yeah, they have a standard heading like everybody else does. So think about everything on your slide providing information. Make the illustration simple. Self-explained if at all possible. As you're designing graphics, limit what's in the graphics to just important information. I've seen a lot of graphs over the years where the y-axis has every 10, 0 up to 100, but the only information, the only data on the slide is between 40 and 50. If everything's between 40 and 50, do you need 0, 10, 20? Consider taking those out. Consider only showing what's important. And also, as you're designing graphics, think about, are your graphics as clear as possible? Think about shadings, think about 3D effects. All of those tend to make the graph harder to read. Keep it simple. That way people will spend less time looking at them, trying to interpret them, and more time listening to you. Likewise, if you have an illustration, put arrows to things if those are important. Don't just say, look at that, and force people to figure out what they're supposed to be looking at. Identify things on the screen that people are supposed to identify. And then avoid visual distractions. It's a lot of fun to play with all the fonts, the colors, all the fading effects that you can have on your computer, but all of those distract from your presentation. Keep it simple, keep it focused, and people will be able to follow much more closely to what you are doing. And just to finish up, we've talked about what to do on your slides. Let me show you 3 examples of really bad slides. I'm not going to show them for very long, just their samples, but I want you to take a brief moment and just react to them, and then think about your own slides and why you shouldn't do things like this. First of all, we say minimal, concise text. Don't do this. If you put a slide like this up, your audience's immediate reaction is going to be, ain't reading it. Keep it to something they can read. Likewise, You want your text and your illustrations to relate to each other. Here's a slide with a great picture and some interesting text that have nothing to do with each other. When I see a slide like this, I'm seeing the text, and then I spend the rest of the time thinking, why is that picture there? Instead of listening to the presenter. Make sure everything on the slide relates to what you're talking about. And then finally, with no further explanation required, so thank you for listening to this video on preparing an in-person oral presentation. As I said earlier, refer back to the Student Presenter Guide for everything related to the symposium. The guide also has links to all of the other videos in this series, so take advantage of them. We hope we've provided you some good information you can use in preparing for your presentation. We look forward to seeing you at the symposium, and have fun doing it. Thanks for watching.